My tagline for Honey Be Bold is that I empower women to kick ass in their businesses and in their bodies because both are so important. If we ignore our intuition in our bodies and we pay attention to that social conditioning that so many of us have, we are continuing to condition ourselves to ignore that intuition that is going to pop up over and over and over again in your business as well. Hey, beautiful humans. Welcome to the Bold Women in Business podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Honeyman, founder of Honey Be Bold and fellow bold woman in business. This show is all about highlighting women who are changing the world, helping other women, and kicking ass along the way. Let's dive in. Okay, I'm going to preface this episode by saying if you're watching the YouTube version of this episode, I apologize for my appearance. My typical rule of thumb is I film content when my curls are looking really good. And as you can see, if you're not watching, if you're just listening, you'll take my word for it, or you can go check it out. I am like messy bun, sweatshirt, just a hot mess today. But that's okay, because I think that it's actually kind of appropriate for the topic at hand. Because inspiration struck me and I decided, you know what? I'm not going to wait until tomorrow or Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever I have the time to make my hair look good and maybe throw on a little bit of makeup. I'm just going to hit record, speak from the heart, and talk about a really, really important topic. And that is women's intuition. If you listened to last week's episode with Alicia Santandrew, the topic of women's intuition came up in a pretty significant context. She was talking about her experience as a victim of abuse and how much women's intuition kind of gets lost, right? When women are victims of abuse, you kind of lose touch with that part of yourself. And something that I mentioned in that episode is I think that even without an extreme situation such as abuse, women in our society are kind of conditioned to ignore our intuition. So I recently had an experience that I wanted to talk about today, and it ties very closely to my experience with how I started martial arts. And it's so tied into how I run my business today and how I recommend my clients run their businesses. So I want to first take a step back and talk about how I got into martial arts. I did tell this story in kind of a shorter version in last week's episode, but I want to go into a little bit more detail. So about 10 years ago, my husband and I were living in Miami Beach, Florida. And most people think of Miami Beach as being, paradise. And for the most part, it is, but there are some neighborhoods that are not so safe. And I actually grew up in Miami Beach, so I know this pretty well. There are certainly parts of South Beach that are not so safe, and there's a lot of crime and all of that. And I went shopping one night. It was, probably not so late, but it was dark out. And I went to a Whole Foods of all places, and the parking there was notoriously terrible. So I just kind of parked wherever I could. I went in, I did my shopping, and as I'm leaving the store, I'm carrying my grocery bags, and I feel this prickle on the back of my neck. And anyone listening to this, especially if you are a woman, you know exactly what feeling I'm describing because you felt it many, many, many times before. When you just know something is off, something is off, someone is looking at you, right? We always feel it when someone's staring at us from across the room or something like that, right? There's something innately in us that tells us something is up. And so I had this kind of prickle in the back of my neck. Something is wrong. And I did what most of us are conditioned to do, which is I ignored it. I said, no, there's nothing wrong. Let me just get my groceries into my car and just ignore that feeling. I remember distinctly, I went over to the passenger side door and I was unloading my groceries. I only had a couple of bags, so I wasn't putting them in my trunk. And I'm unloading my groceries into the passenger side door. And I turn around, and lo and behold, a man had followed me back to my car, and he was kind of cornering me at the entrance of my car. And he was talking in some foreign language. I don't remember what language. Certainly, I probably would have remembered if it was Spanish, because that was what I was surrounded by in South Florida. But it was some language that was not English. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I understood exactly what he was saying. He was asking me to do something with him. You kind of read between the lines. And I had this moment of panic where I just was like, I have no idea what to do in this situation. And I actually can't tell you exactly how the next steps happened, which is somehow I got past him. I ran around to the driver's side of my car. I got in my car, locked the doors, and drove away as fast as I could. I probably ran a bunch of red lights on my way home. I was not paying attention at all. I just wanted to get to safety. And as soon as I got home, the first thing I did was I reached out to one of my closest friends in the world, who is now my martial arts teacher. I'm very grateful for that. I reached out to him, Jarlo Alano, and I said, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I would have done if he had actually tried to grab me or put his hands on me. Knowing what I know now, 10 years later, after spending a lot of time in the martial arts world and teaching women self-defense, what I know is this was clearly not a good guy, right? A good guy doesn't follow a woman back to her car late at night, but he probably wasn't actually trying to hurt me. So I got lucky. That's plain and simple. I got lucky that this guy wasn't actually intending to harm me, but maybe was hoping that something would happen anyway. It kind of just was this eye-opening experience where I said, if there's a next time, I may not be so lucky. That guy may try to hurt me. That guy may try to grab me and take me somewhere, or grab me and rape me, or grab me and murder me, right? There are so many scenarios that women unfortunately are victim to every day. And I just got terrified that I had no idea what I could possibly do to protect myself. And it became very clear to me, I need to empower myself with those skills. And so Jarlo, who'd been doing martial arts for decades at that point, even more now, an extra decade, suggested I start with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grappling martial art. So it's all mostly ground-based, and it's really designed to help a smaller person overpower a larger person, and using leverage to really get out of scary situations. Now, it's like all martial arts has been watered down in a lot of ways and is primarily a sport, but there are a lot of practical applications to it. And so I got started there, and over time, I wound up learning a bunch of other martial arts, including Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do, which is the Bruce Lee martial art, and a lot of different parts of a system that Jarlo's teacher, Burton Richardson, teaches, called JKD Unlimited. And it's basically all focused on street self-defense. So I won't go into too many details there because I don't need to nerd out on martial arts on this particular episode, maybe a different episode. But the point of that story is, yes, it got my journey in martial arts started, but it also was a very eye-opening experience in terms of the dangers in ignoring our intuition. So now I want to fast forward to an incident that happened maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. Recently, the incident that happened is that actually after jiu-jitsu class, I often go to a 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu class. And so it was after class, but it's still early morning. So it was like maybe 7:15 a.m., something like that. I left class and I stopped at a gas station that is literally not even half a block away from my jiu-jitsu gym because I needed gas. So I stopped at a gas station to get gas, and there's no one around because it's early. And as I'm pumping gas, I look up. So one of the things that I have learned is really always paying attention to my surroundings, using situational awareness, really being aware and present. And so when I'm pumping my gas, I'm not playing on my phone. I'm not distracted. I really am looking around constantly and looking at my surroundings. And thank God I was, because I saw a car pull into the gas station, and a man was driving this Jeep, and he's staring right at me, making eye contact with me, staring right at me. And he pulls in, not to a pump, but he pulls in at an angle in front of my car, not in such a way that I wouldn't be able to get out, but in a weird way, certainly not the way that you would expect someone to pull in at a gas station. And I immediately had this gut feeling, that same kind of prickle in the back of my neck, right? Except it wasn't the back of my neck because I was staring directly at him. So I get this immediate gut feeling that something is wrong. I actually had that voice in my head saying, no, it's nothing, right? It's hard to get rid of that voice. We as women are really, really strongly conditioned to pay attention to that voice telling us to ignore our intuition. So that voice is still there. But thank God I've trained the much louder voice now, which is if something feels wrong, pay attention to it. And so something was telling me that there was something wrong here. And so I had it in my head. I don't know why, but I had this feeling in my gut that told me I need to get back in my car. My gas tank is actually on the passenger side. So I had to get around to the driver's side of my car, and I have to get in my car before he gets out of his car. And our driver doors are parallel to each other. So I put the pump back. I didn't even close the tank. I just put it back, ran around to the driver's side, got in my car, and right as I'm closing my door, he's opening his door and getting out and looking right at me the whole time, making eye contact. So I immediately closed the door, locked the door. I was able to drive around his car and drive out of the gas station. And as I'm turning the corner, there was a stop sign. So I got to the stop sign, and before I made my right-hand turn, I look back, and he was getting back in his car. So he had not stopped at that gas station for any reason other than he saw a woman alone pumping gas, and he saw an opportunity. And when that opportunity left, so did he. So these two stories are actually so similar. Both involve my car and getting to the driver's side. Both wound up having a good outcome, right? I didn't get hurt in either situation. But the feeling of helplessness in the first story versus the feeling of empowerment and feeling like I had the tools and I had the know-how to get out of that situation, to pay attention to that voice and to not ignore my intuition. I mean, it's night and day. And how does this relate to our businesses? Right? My tagline for Honey Be Bold is that I empower women to kick ass in their businesses and in their bodies, because both are so important. If we ignore our intuition in our bodies and we pay attention to that social conditioning that so many of us have, we are continuing to condition ourselves to ignore that intuition that is going to pop up over and over and over again in your business as well. So I actually just had an experience a week or so ago where I met with a potential client, and in 99% of cases, when I have what I call my vibe check with potential clients, so it's a free 15-minute call, and it's just that. It is a vibe check. I'm seeing, do we vibe? You're seeing, do we vibe? Yes, I'm explaining my process and my pricing and all of that. And you're telling me your goals, and we're trying to see if there's a good fit here. More important, way more important than any of those details are, do we vibe? Do I want to work with you? And do you want to work with me? In 99% of cases, it goes just like that. I'm not interviewing you. You're not interviewing me. This is about a partnership. I see my working relationship with my clients as a partnership. I had this vibe check with a potential client, and probably they're perfectly lovely people and probably a great company to do work for. And by the end of the conversation, they were basically ready to hire me. And it would have been a very profitable project for me. But I got off that call and I said, something feels off. And I immediately went downstairs to my husband's office, and he wasn't in a meeting, so I was able to talk to him. And I told him, I don't know exactly what it is, but something doesn't feel right. And I don't know if I should ignore that feeling. because we can use the money. My business is still in its early stages of growth. And I'm not in a position to just be turning down work right now. I think most small business owners are not in a position to just turn down work. Well, I could help them. I could do good work for them. All the things we talked about, all the boxes. And this is actually part of why I say that the details don't matter so much, because they were fine with my pricing. They were fine with my process. I felt like I could help them based on their goals, but something felt off when it came to that vibe check piece. And my husband made such a good point. He said, "You have an incredibly strong intuition and a very strong gut feeling, and it's almost never wrong." So he really encouraged me to pay attention to it, to lean into it, and to turn down this project. Now, all the stories that I just told may feel disconnected because the two first stories are potentially life-threatening stories, right? My life was potentially in danger. Do I know that things would have gone that way? No, but the potential was very much there. It's very real. In this situation, probably the worst thing that would have happened is that maybe it wouldn't have been a good fit, and it would have been a difficult client to work with, or maybe they wouldn't have trusted my process as much. And, something just wouldn't have gone as smoothly as most of my projects do. Is that the end of the world? No, it's not. But when I think about the type of intentional business that I want to build, and my ideal clients are trying to build very similar types of businesses. They're doing different things. Their services and their products are very different than mine. If they were the same, they probably wouldn't be coming to me for help. But the way that they're trying to build their businesses, there's a reason that I vibe so well with those clients. Because my very intentional way of doing things, my very values-driven way of doing things speaks to them, because that's how they want to build their businesses. And when we think about how to build the very intentional, values-driven business we want to build that aligns with our values, and that's going to be different for each person. It's going to be different for every business. Defining what is important to you. What is the special magical thing that makes your business unique? And who are the people who are going to resonate with that? Who are the people who are going to really love what you do and see your magic? And how can we make that magic come to life so that it speaks to the right people? When we think through this and we really define who you are, who your business is, what matters to you, and how we can build a business and build a brand and a website and marketing pieces, and all those pieces are really just about helping build this business that is extremely values driven and helps you live in alignment with those values. When we think about that, it becomes so clear when someone doesn't fit that mold. It doesn't quite feel right. It doesn't quite feel like this person totally vibes with the values and core pieces of our identity as a business that drive us. It's easy, right? It's easy to say no and turn that business away because you have to. You have to. If you don't, you're actually compromising the value of your business. I think the key thing here is that there's intuition, and it really is something that's innate, and that women tend to have a much stronger intuition. This is obviously a generalization. There are probably plenty of men. My husband happens to be one of them. He has a very strong intuition. On average, we'll generalize. On average, this concept of women's intuition is a real thing for a reason, because we have this very strong gut feeling, but we're often told to ignore it. And when it comes to your business, your intuition should be a driver of the decisions that you make, but that has to be coupled with a deep understanding the type of business that you want to build. And when you can couple those together, and when you can really have a clear idea of what is the business that I want to build, what is the brand that's going to bring that to life and speak directly to the people that I want in my orbit, and you feel empowered to pay attention to that intuition, I mean, that is magic right there. That is magic. So I think this is such an important topic that I could probably go on and on and on about. I will probably talk about it in different ways, in different episodes, in different blog posts on my LinkedIn account. But I just wanted to kind of get the ball rolling here a little bit because I think this is such an important topic that tends to get overlooked, or it tends to get kind of watered down in a way. I want to help you. If you are a values-driven female entrepreneur who is trying to build a business that is doing something really meaningful for your clients, but something is just not quite right. Your brand is just not quite reflective of the magic that you bring to the world and to your clients. Your website is not reflective of who you are and what you want to build. Your social media, your email marketing, all those pieces of your marketing ecosystem are just not landing well with your ideal clients. Those perfect fit people who really, really vibe with you are just not finding their way to you, or something is just not clicking. I want to help you define who you are, what you stand for, who your ideal clients are, and help you build a brand and a website that is so uniquely magical that it just immediately resonates with the people who you want it to resonate with. And I want to empower you to listen to that intuition, to pay attention to that voice inside you, maybe has been ignored for a long time, but you know it's there. You know that it's powerful and knows what it's talking about. And I want to encourage you to pay attention to that. So please, if you are interested in chatting with me and learning more about my process and how I can help you, book a free 15-minute vibe check with me. You can book that in the show notes. You can book that on my website, honeybeebold.com. I am happy to chat anytime. Find me on LinkedIn. Email me at hey@honeybeebold.com. I am just so grateful that you are here for this journey with me, and I am so grateful to be on your journey with you. Thank you. All right, beautiful humans, that's it for today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Bold Women in Business podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rachel Honeyman, with music by Shmookalele. This show is brought to you by my company, Honey Be Bold, where we build bold, unstoppable brands and websites for kick-ass women in business. If you are a female entrepreneur or dream of being one, and you want to take your business to a level that no one can resist, reach out to me at hey@honeybeebold.com for a free vibe check. Honey, be bold. See you next time.